What's up, guys? Today we've got another pair of MartinLogan speakers. These are the MartinLogan Classic ESL9s. The previous MartinLogans that we reviewed, which were the 13As and also the ESLXs, some of my favorite, if not my favorite speakers that we've ever had in here. So I'm a little excited to check these guys out. These are kind of in between the 13As and above the ESLXs. So this I believe is their entry model into the Masterpiece series, which is kind of like their higher end series of electrostatic speakers. If you wanted to fit in here, you could fit in here and ship somebody off. So you're gonna cut off the straps and then you're gonna go onto the other side. You're gonna open up the door on this side and you're gonna push it through. Just gonna remove. And these are packed all the exact same way, as far as I can remember. Inside the packaging, we got the accessories box. Inside the accessories box, we've got the spiked feet. Right there, there's 4 of these in there. Owner's manual. And in this little box, we've got the power supply. The power supply is what supplies power to the electrostatic panel. These might look really heavy, but they're actually not really heavy. They're bottom heavy. The top portion of the speaker weighs pretty much nothing, but all the weight is gonna come from the bottom. Look at that. Now that's very nice. Not quite as big as the 13As and not quite as small as the ESLXs. I think what you're gonna see here, what I can remember anyways, is the difference is the cabinet is a little bit bigger. This still has dual 8-inch drivers. There is an 8-inch woofer on the front, right behind this grill. I don't know if you can see that behind the grill, but there's an 8-incher there. You can pop this off. There's another 8-incher right there. And the frequency response of this guy goes down to 33 Hertz. Also behind here, we've got some binding posts. So if you want to buy wire these, buy amp these, you can do that as well. You got your high frequency in the top, low frequency in the bottom. There is your power input for the AC adapter. You got a little LED indicator light for power. Like I said earlier, this is a little bit different from the ESLXs that I had from a few years back. This is 60 inches tall by 10.5 inches wide by, I think it was like 20.5 inches deep. But like I said, the cabinet is a little bit bigger from the ESLXs and not quite as big as the 13As that we had previously. It does still have the very rigid, I think this is like aluminum or steel base. So this keeps everything anchored to the bottom. If we can tilt this back a little bit and check out the feet, you can unscrew these to either put the spikes in, or you got these if you want to put them on hardwood flooring, if you don't want to scratch up your hardwood floor. And these are adjustable, so if you want to get them level to your floor, if you've got some crooked floors, you can level them here as well. And this does use MartinLogan's curvilinear electrostatic panel. So it's got a 30-degree dispersion pattern, which should give you a nice wide sweet spot. So we'll definitely check that out when we hook these up to the system. So let's go ahead, get these things set up. Today we're going to be checking out the brand new Bowers Wilkins 803 D4s against the MartinLogan ESL9s. The gear that we're going to be using for this video, we're using the Cambridge Edge Audio monoblocks, the Edge M's. Also, the preamp is going to be the Cambridge Edge NQ. We're going to be streaming music to it using Roon with Tidal Qobuz. And for speaker cables, we're going to be using the Kimber Cable 12TCs. Just for reference, the little speaker comparison we did about a year ago, we actually kind of picked the MartinLogans. Those two speakers, actually, I think they were like $1,000 apart. I think the Martins were like 17K, and I think the Bowers were 18K, so that's really an
apples to apples. This year, for this particular comparison, the ESL9s are, what, 7,000?
Yeah, I think it was 7,000.
As compared to the new D4s, which are coming in at 20,000.
So they're actually $2,000 more than the D3s from last year, or from last gen.
Right.
Anyways, what were your thoughts on both these guys? Let's start off at the top going down. What are your thoughts on the detailed treble response on both of these?
The 803 D4s, for me, kind of took it hands down. that 1-inch Nautilus tweeter and the 5-inch mid-range really work well together to give you a nice, detailed, very clean high end. The MartinLogan sounded good. They had a very nice frequency response. They weren't able to, I think, for my ears, attain the sort of clarity and the high notes that you're used to hearing. For me, the real telling was the song Sweet Jane from the Trinity Church, and just you could hear every little tiny detail. You still can hear it pretty well on the MartinLogans. It just doesn't sound as clean.
I mean, I thought the MartinLogans were very detailed. Also, I thought the Bowers are super detailed as well. I actually think the new Nautilus tweeter on this version is actually better than last year's version.
Yeah.
I mean, we still don't have that on hand to really do the comparison, but I think I rewatched our old video and I didn't think the detail was good on the D3, on the last gen Diamond tweeters compared to this one. I actually thought last year's were a bit smoother sounding than the D4 ones. But I think MartinLogans are kind of known to be maybe unforgiving on certain recordings because they can extract enough detail where you might hear a bad recording, whereas I think the Bowers and Wilkins a little bit more forgiving on the detail. Like I thought most of the stuff that we listened to sounded good across the board on the Bowers.
No, absolutely.
As far as like soundstage, because I thought the detail was so good on both speakers, when we were listening to that Lenny Kravitz song, I felt that the soundstage with the Bowers and Wilkins, definitely nice separation. I felt like the extension came out to, you know, as far as like my periphery, out here, a little bit before it hit my ears. Whereas I thought the MartinLogans kind of almost wrapped around my head, almost the same feeling that I experienced with the 13As.
Yep.
But I would say I think that the Bowers are a bit more accurate sounding because everything happened kind of in front of me with a nice separation. The vocals and the piano, everything sounded like it was coming slightly behind the speaker. Whereas the MartinLogans, because it's a dipole speaker, it's got, you know, forward and rear firing driver. Well, it's an electrostat, so fires forward and backwards. So in phase forward, out of phase backwards. And just so you know, I had to put some absorption panels behind the MartinLogans because for whatever reason, I know it's supposed to give you a bigger sense of space, which it still does. But
Absolutely.
I think maybe because the room is not as big, or maybe it's smaller than maybe we need, that every time it would reflect off the back wall, it would kind of muddy up the soundstage and it would kind of ruin the phantom imaging. But after we put the panels in, that really tightened up the vocals and imaging really solidified itself, so it was like rock solid in the center. But back to the Bowers and Wilkins, I thought like the soundstage, fantastic on that. Like really nice, spacious horizontal dispersion. It extended slightly behind the tweeters. Whereas the MartinLogans, I think because it is a dipole, it kind of wraps around you. So now the pianos, instead of kind of being in front of you, kind of floating maybe behind Lenny Kravitz, it kind of sounded like I was sitting on top of the piano. So it was like right here in my face, like right in front of my face.
Yeah, I felt like the piano was almost like behind me.
Yeah.
It was just, it sounded almost kind of fake. Or
Yeah,
like it was
yeah.
like it had been manipulated. I don't know. The imaging on those things is incredible, but almost where it's too wide, and maybe that's because of that 30-degree horizontal dispersion where it kind of is designed to do that.
Yeah.
So in that regard, not necessarily apples to apples, that dipolar and that horizontal spread, but I think what you were saying is true. The sound on the Bowers was more in line with the speakers versus the sound on the MartinLogan sounding like everything was kind of way forward of the speakers.
Which I think that's like a subjective thing, whether you're gonna like maybe, like who's to say which one's more accurate, but I do think that the Bowers is probably more accurate sounding, whereas the MartinLogan is gonna give you maybe a little bit more excitement out of the recording.
In terms of your spatial imaging accuracy, where things are actually placed on the stage, where where the performers are, I think the Bowers is a little more true, whereas the stage is so wide on the MartinLogans that it can kind of make it hard to feel where things are.
I don't remember getting that sensation with the 13As for some reason. Yeah, I don't know.
Who knows?
At least not that I can remember. But I would say awesome soundstage on the Bowers and Wilkins and a very exciting landscape with the MartinLogans. So soundstage up front for the Bowers and just this huge landscape of sound just coming at you. It's like you're sitting inside of a recording, actually, really. So, I mean, that high frequency detail for both, I think amazing. Either way you look at it.
They both did a great job. I just, for my ears, I prefer the sound of the Bowers. I love the knotless tweeter. I could literally put my head right up against a speaker and just, it's like you can't get enough. I think it sounds so good. And I also love that 5-inch mid-range. I know, that part of for the Bowers was a little bit, better sounding to my ears than on the MartinLogans.
Yeah, I do think having that separate 5-inch mid-range definitely helped out with the vocals, especially Lenny's voice, Dominique's voice. It's a very nice throaty sound that you get with that.
Crisp.
Which is, there's still some pretty decent mid-range on the MartinLogans, but it doesn't come at you with the same force, I would say, or be as prominent and more present as on the Bowers and Wilkins. So I think it's a little bit more natural sounding on the Bowers.
Yeah, for me, I think I just thought of that word crisp, and that's really what I was looking for when I was listening to it, was the right word, and that's sort of what encapsulates it on the Bowers for me. I think it sounds a little more crisp to my ear than the MartinLogans. MartinLogans sounded good, you could hear the frequencies, they just didn't sound as clean, I guess.
So the Bowers Wilkins has dual 7-inch drivers, the MartinLogans has dual 8-inch drivers. And we listen to some Onyx, which is
let the boys be boys.
I believe there's a bass warning on that song or that album where it's, if you turn up too loud, you can damage your woofers. And obviously, we're not going to get like sub bass because these things don't go that low, even though the Bowers and Wilkins says it goes down to 16 hertz. It's not like 16 hertz that you would get from a subwoofer, so it's not filling your room with air vibrating bass. You're not getting infrasonics with it, nor are you getting it with the MartinLogans. I think the frequency response on the Bowers is, 16 hertz?
16 to 38?
38K?
35.
35K, right.
Yeah.
And then the Martin-Logans were, I think, 34 or 35 hertz.
Yeah, they were 34 up to 23K.
Yeah, I would say that's a little bit more accurate representation of what we're getting with the Martin-Logans, where I would say definitely not that kind of extension on the Bowers and Wilkins, for sure. Do the Bowers hit hard? For sure.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, this thing's bang. We're playing some rock music and some pop and rap music, like Onyx. And those things definitely hit hard. But you will definitely need a subwoofer if you want to get those sub-frequencies.
Right.
Whereas I think with the I felt with the Martin-Logans, I think there was a bit more extension over the Bowers, probably because the woofers are so close to the ground. They're maybe like, what are they like?
like 5 inches off the ground?
Yeah, like 5 inches from the ground. So they're really vibrating on the floor. We have wooden floors here, so they really kind of transfer to the ground up to the chair, and you can really feel it in the chair and also through your body.
Right.
So, but at the same time, I do feel like the Bowers hits hard, punches harder, but better extension on the Martin-Logans.
Right, exactly. The kick for Onyx, like that Bowers would just punch. The Martin-Logans, I think it's, again, being close to the ground like that, it did have a little more extension, whereas I thought the Bowers were cleaner in their punch. They didn't have as much of that sort of that uncontrolled resonance.
I can't say that I would pick one over the other one like we did on the first go around with the 13A and the D3s.
The 13A was kind of like, I want those, please.
I think this one, I mean, especially for the price, I mean, 20 grand for the D4s, like 7 grand for the ESL 9s.
Yeah, I think that was the biggest point of amazement for me, was the price difference versus the performance.
Listen, if I was gonna have a pair of speakers, if I was gonna own one of these speakers, I think being like a reviewer on YouTube, I would probably go with the 803s just because I think it's a more reference sounding speaker, it's a more accurate sounding speaker. But if I was just gonna chill in a room and not worry about doing a review, I think I might own the Martin-Logans because I think it's maybe, for me at least, a little bit more engaging because it's adding so much flavor to it, but still has an amazing separation, soundstage imaging. It just kind of places you in the music, whereas I think the 803s are a little bit more analytical sounding.
I think that the 803s are definitely a purist speaker. Like if you're an audiophile, you're listening to jazz, classical, if you're looking for studio monitor levels of accuracy, I think the 803s are sort of more in line with that. And as you said, the Martin-Logans sound great. They are definitely more engaging in terms of like putting you in the soundstage. I mean, when the keyboards are coming from behind you, that's pretty much putting you in the middle of things. I mean, would you consider those for home theater, even though typically they're not your home theater speaker?
The 803s?
Yeah, no, not the 803s.
Oh, the MartinLogans.
Yeah, I mean...
It's funny you should say, would we put the MartinLogans in a home theater? Because I actually have the matching center speaker for the MartinLogans. So be sure you tune in for that review where I check out the ESL 9s and the C18 center channel speaker in my home theater. That's gonna be the first time I've listened to an electrostatic home theater before, because the center channel is also electrostat as well.
Oh, that's cool.
Well, anyways, guys, thanks for checking out this video. What are your thoughts on the 803D4s against the ESL 9s? Have you heard any one of these speakers, and what are your thoughts on the electrostats versus a direct radiating sounding speaker? Leave your comment down below. As always, guys, thanks for watching. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you again in the next video.
Cheers.